47 past the hour Saturday marked the deadline for the Department of Justice to submit written justifications for its controversial Epstein file redactions and withholdings.
What did they say?
Well, House Oversight Democrats noted the deadline in a social media post amid the Trump administration's operation in Venezuela.
Wait.
Writing in part, quote,
they didn't. Wait, what? They didn't meet their deadline?
We're sure it's just a coincidence, adding they have not forgotten and won't let up.
But that's the law. By the way, I just want people to know that's the law.
Right.
They were required by law in a nearly unanimous vote. What was it, like 427-1? That they had to make these deadlines. And they didn't make the deadlines.
Lawmakers have criticized the DOJ since missing the original December 19th deadline set by Congress to release the files after the passage of the Epstein Files Transparency Act last year.
That's the law that they keep breaking
Congressman
over and
Ro
over
Khanna
again.
of California has said he is looking into asking a federal court to appoint a special master to ensure full release of the documents. The DOJ reportedly still has roughly 5.2 million pages of Epstein documents left to review and does not expect to finish until January 20th.
Jonathan, obviously, again, this is the law, and they keep breaking the law.
Yeah,
the administration, the DOJ keeps breaking the law.
Yeah, this is now a couple of deadlines they have missed. January 3rd, as the House Oversight Committee made clear, the Democrats on the committee, this is when this should have been released. It, of course, was not. And every time the Trump administration, I think, is trying to be too cute by half, they and the Republicans on the Hill, trying to bury this, trying to delay this. But every time they do it, they simply extend the lifespan of this story and continues to be more.
We've said it time and time again. Just get it behind you.
Yep.
Just get it. They can't do it.
And the number only seems to grow of the documents they still have to get through. 5.2.
And,
my God.
And they're not going to be able to bury this like they did the Jack Smith testimony, which I said in real time. Jack Smith was not the dog catching the car. Jack Smith was the dog catching the 18-wheeler. And the second they caught him, they wanted to let him go.
That's right. And they've tried.
And they tried to bury it on New Year's Eve because they want no part of this guy anymore.
At first, denying an open hearing, keeping it behind closed doors, despite Smith's request, making him the first special counsel to not get an open hearing. And then they finally do release it. But when? Well, the afternoon of New Year's Eve, when they thought no one was paying attention. But we were. The House Judiciary Committee quietly released the full transcript and more than 8 hours of video of its closed-door deposition of former special counsel Jack Smith. The deposition took place before the Republican-led panel back in December. In the deposition, Smith firmly stood by his decision to charge President Trump in 2 criminal investigations, that Trump interfered in the 2020 election and that he improperly took classified documents to Mar-a-Lago.
The decision to bring charges against President Trump was mine. But the basis for those charges rests entirely with President Trump and his actions, as alleged in the indictments returned by grand juries in 2 different districts. Our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election and to prevent the lawful transfer of power. Our investigation also developed powerful evidence that showed that President Trump willfully retained highly classified documents after he left office in January of 2021, storing them at his social club, including in a ballroom and a bathroom. He then repeatedly tried to obstruct justice to conceal his continued retention of those documents. The evidence here made clear that President Trump was, by a large measure, the most culpable and most responsible person in this conspiracy. These crimes were committed for his benefit. The attack that happened at the Capitol as part of this case does not happen without him. The other co-conspirators were doing this for his benefit. So in terms of why we would pursue a case against him, I entirely disagree with any characterization that our work was in any way meant to hamper him in the presidential election. The timing and speed of our work reflects the strength of the evidence and our confidence that we would have secured convictions at trial. If asked whether to prosecute a former president based on the same facts today, I would do so regardless of whether that president was a Republican or a Democrat. One of the strengths of our case and why we felt we had such strong proof is our witnesses were not going to be political enemies of the president. They were going to be political allies. We had numerous witnesses who would say, I voted for President Trump. I campaigned for President Trump. I wanted him to win. Our case was a case in which the president was preying on the party allegiance of people who supported him.
Well, Brez, we can see why Republicans wanted to keep that hidden. Jack Smith, it's a commanding, confident delivery. Right there at the end, let's highlight that. Notes that the witnesses that he had for this case, these were not political opponents. He made clear political allies, fellow Republicans, members of the Mar-a-Lago Club, employees. This is extraordinarily damning stuff for this president. And, the House's efforts to keep this behind closed doors, well, we are seeing it now. This matters.
Yeah, I know Jack Smith. He is an outstanding lawyer, and he's very calm. He handled corruption prosecutions inside the Justice Department previously before he left, and then was brought back as special counsel for the Trump case. He's highly respected. This is a guy who's unflappable. So, you saw what he was like. He was not going to, if they tried to bring charges against him, they tried to indict him. That's going to be a witness that no prosecutor is going to want to see. And with the case the case he makes that Trump was the one responsible for January 6th, which we all know already. That's obvious. Of course, we all were there. I was in the building. We all know what happened on January 6th. And, now you can make it's a different case about the classified documents. That's a whole different issue. But in terms of the January 6th case, I think that's pretty clear that Smith was in the right there, and bringing charges were, whether you agree with it or not politically, on a legal basis, he's on pretty solid ground there.
It is clear, Brez, but at the same time, the Republican Party has done a lot to try to muddy the waters around what happened on January 6th. You and I have covered both the January 6th Select Committee hearings, where there was such clarity and such a breadth of evidence against the president and key members of his orbit in what they were trying to do to overturn the results of an election that he lost. But then at the same time, watching Republicans come in and try to cloud what actually happened. And look, I think it's right that the Judiciary Committee tried to bury this with a New Year's release. But at the same time, it comes mere days before tomorrow's 5-year anniversary of the January 6th insurrection. And I actually think that it works to have the moral clarity that Jack Smith can uniquely provide around what happened that day, and also the president's role in it, even as the president has pardoned and commutated the sentences of the rioters who were in part responsible for what happened on that day. And so this is what you get when you investigate the investigators. You revive the very thing that they were investigating in the first place.
It never works.
There you go.
It never works.
That's it right there.
And they can try to create conspiracy theories. They can try to lie their way out of it. But you all were there. You saw what happened. Republican senators, members of Congress were there. They saw what happened. We heard what they said right afterwards before they got scared. Yeah, the conspiracy theories, even that were pushed by some people of the administration, of course, just completely undermined by the FBI just a few weeks ago. So anyway, again, investigating. I don't know how many times I have to tell these people this. Seriously, it's my shoulders are growing heavy. I'm growing weary. Are they trying to help you? Stop investigating the investigators when what the investigators were investigating is so damning to your party leader.
Or,
as the GOP's chief counsel told him after Jack Smith testified, Arnold the pig, by the way, just let it go, bro. Just let it go. Yeah. This doesn't end well.
Or don't.
MS Now senior Capitol Hill reporter Ali Vitale and co-founder of Punchbowl News, John Bresnahan, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it.